Two former NASCAR Cup Series champions are now demanding answers. After Denny Hamlin won his third consecutive race at Pocono Raceway, something shifted inside the garage, and it wasn't just the championship standings. Drivers and team officials have reportedly gone directly to NASCAR, pushing for a deeper look at Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XI Racing. No one is calling it cheating out loud. But everyone is asking the same question. Denny Hamlin did something on the 14th of June 2026 that he had never done in 21 years of full-time Cup Series racing. He won 3 consecutive races: Nashville, Michigan, Pocono, back to back to back. And at Pocono Raceway specifically, he collected his 8th career victory at the track, a record that belongs entirely to him. Number 11, Joe Gibbs Racing. Toyota held off the 45-23XI Racing Toyota of Tyler Reddick by 1.678 seconds in a fuel-saving battle to the checkered flag that had the entire field watching every gauge on their dashboard. When it was over, Hamlin had 64 career Cup Series victories, moving him past the late Kyle Busch and into 9th place on the all-time wins list alone. Post-race inspection came back clean. No issues on the number 11. The win was official. 6 cars were sent to the NASCAR R&D Center in Concord, North Carolina for further evaluation. 5 Kyle Larson, 7 Daniel Suarez, 1-2 Ryan Blaney, 1-7 Chris Buescher, 4-2 John Hunter Nemechek, and 4-5 Tyler Reddick. That is a standard part of NASCAR's process. Selection for R&D inspection does not indicate a rules violation. But the combination of who was sent, who wasn't, and what had just happened on the racetrack gave the garage plenty to talk about heading into the week. On the championship side, the numbers told a striking story. Reddick, who had entered Pocono with a comfortable lead atop the standings, now held just a 1.9-point advantage over Hamlin, the smallest margin between them all season. With only 10 races remaining to set the 1-6 driver chase field, Hamlin's momentum has completely reshaped the title conversation. Reddick acknowledged it directly after the race. "It's a bummer," he said. "If the 11 wasn't the winner, you could consider this a good day. I know we finished second. Scoring the points we did just didn't get the job done." But here is where the story gets complicated, because Hamlin's win historic as it was quickly stopped being the only conversation coming out of Pocono. According to multiple industry sources, several drivers and team officials have reportedly been pushing NASCAR to take a much closer look at the cars coming from both Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XI Racing. Not through public statements, not through press conferences, behind the scenes, through direct communication with the sanctioning body, with a message that the level of performance being produced by these two organizations deserves additional scrutiny. The concern centers on consistency. Tyler Reddick opened the 2026 season with 4 wins in the first 6 races, including a victory at Darlington Raceway where his car dealt with an alternator issue, required a battery change, and lost its cool suit entirely, yet still found a way to the front and won. That kind of performance drew attention early. Fox Sports analyst Kevin Harvick addressed it directly, saying confidence and speed are hard to beat, and crediting team stability, Toyota's overall package, and Reddick's growth as a leader. You can't beat fast cars, and Tyler Reddick has stepped up to be able to deliver on those fast cars, Harvick said. At the time, most of the garage accepted that explanation. Then Denny Hamlin started winning. And winning again, and winning again. Toyota manufacturers have now won 10 of 16 Cup Series races in 2026. Joe Gibbs Racing alone accounts for 5 of those victories. When one manufacturer and one organization's network is producing that volume of results, the rest of the garage does not simply look the other way. Every crew chief is searching for speed. Every engineer is looking for an edge. When one group finds significantly more of it than everyone else, week after week, people start asking questions. And according to sources familiar with the discussions, that is exactly what has been happening inside the NASCAR garage. The technical relationship between Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XI Racing sits at the center of this conversation. Denny Hamlin is not just a driver for JGR, he is also the co-owner of 23XI Racing alongside NBA legend Michael Jordan. The two organizations have a long-standing technical alliance involving shared support and equipment. Alliances like this exist across NASCAR and have for years. But according to one source reportedly speaking to ESPN, JGR and 23XI are connected in ways that no other organizations are. And when the same connected network continues producing front-running results weekend after weekend, competitors take notice. Two former Cup Series champions have reportedly been among the most vocal in pushing for expanded inspections, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. That detail matters, and the distinction that comes with it matters even more. Neither Logano nor Keselowski has publicly accused Joe Gibbs Racing or 23XI Racing of cheating. That is a critical line that has not been crossed. What has been reported is that both drivers have pushed for NASCAR to conduct deeper post-race reviews, more extensive examinations of components, and a closer look at what is being shared between affiliated organizations. The position, as reported, is not that something illegal is happening. The position is that NASCAR should inspect thoroughly enough to remove any doubt. From a competitive standpoint, with playoff positioning on the line and championship points shrinking by the week, that argument is not difficult to understand. Then there is the angle that has generated its own separate discussion entirely. Bubba Wallace, driver of the 23XI Racing Toyota and one of the most consistently outspoken personalities in the NASCAR garage, has been notably quiet throughout this entire situation. For a driver who rarely holds back on major topics around the sport, that silence has been observed. According to the report, one veteran crew member inside the garage specifically pointed out that Wallace almost always has something to say, making his decision to stay out of this conversation something people have clearly noticed. The question being asked privately is straightforward. Would Bubba Wallace have remained silent if similar scrutiny had been directed at a different organization? No one is drawing a conclusion from his silence. But it has become part of the story being told inside the garage this week. Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XI Racing have responded by firmly rejecting any suggestion of wrongdoing. Both organizations pointed directly to NASCAR's inspection process, noting that their cars have cleared checks consistently throughout the season. Hamlin himself was completely dismissive of the growing speculation after Pocono, delivering a response that matched the confidence of a driver on a 3-race winning streak. "I would certainly say it's the best we've been," Hamlin said. "We come to the racetrack every week knowing we got a great shot to win. The team's doing an amazing job giving me exactly what I need in the car every single week. That's why we're winning." There was no defensiveness in that answer. Just a driver who believes entirely in what his team is doing. The personal context around Hamlin's season adds another layer to everything. He nearly didn't return to honor his current 2-year extension after losing the championship in last November's season finale. Then in December, his father died in a house fire. He came back to racing carrying all of that, and he is now performing at what he himself has described as the best level his team has ever reached. His contract with JGR runs through 2027, which he has said will be his final season. JGR co-owner Heather Gibbs acknowledged the obvious when asked about an extension. "It's hard when you dangle checkered flags in front of him," she said. 3 consecutive wins have a way of making retirement conversations complicated. NASCAR's official position on all of this is measured. There is no formal investigation. There are no announced penalties. There are no public findings indicating any rules have been broken. The sanctioning body declined to comment specifically on JGR or 23XI, but reiterated that all organizations are subject to the same inspection procedures, and that additional examinations can be conducted whenever officials determine they are necessary. 11 cleared post-race inspection. The win is confirmed. That is where NASCAR stands publicly right now. The broader picture heading into the final stretch of the regular season is one of genuine tension. Shane Van Gisbergen sits 14th in points, just 10 ahead of Brad Keselowski in 17th. Eric Jones and Austin Cindric are 15th and 16th, both only 4 points above the cut line. Joey Logano, one of the drivers reportedly pushing for expanded inspections, sits 21 points outside the top 16. Every single race from here matters enormously for these drivers. Meanwhile, Christopher Bell is managing a broken left wrist sustained in a crash at Michigan the week prior. He led 18 laps at Pocono on a fuel strategy before fading to 26th. Certainly we were mired back in the 20s, so I think it was an amazing gamble, Bell said, describing the situation as worth it. He now faces a difficult 2-week stretch with the inaugural Anduril 250 at the Qualcomm circuit on Naval Base Coronado in San Diego, the first NASCAR race ever held on. An active military installation followed by Sonoma, both tracks requiring heavy use of the gear shift. Hamlin's win at Pocono also carried a historical footnote that would have been the headline in a quieter week. It came nearly 20 years to the day after his very first career Cup Series victory, which also happened at Pocono on the 11th of June 2006. With his 3 consecutive wins, he joined Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and Darrell Waltrip, all NASCAR Hall of Famers, as the only drivers in the modern era to accomplish that feat. He also took a direct jab at NASCAR during his post-race comments, noting that he technically considers this his 9th Pocono victory, not his 8th, because he was stripped of a 2022 win following a failed post-race inspection. They aren't getting that checkered flag back, Hamlin said. What happens next will define how this story develops. If NASCAR's inspections continue producing clean results, the organizations under scrutiny will feel vindicated, and their supporters will have every reason to point to the process as proof. If NASCAR decides to increase its level of examination in response to competitor pressure, those who pushed for it will feel their concerns were heard. Either way, the spotlight on Joe Gibbs Racing, 2311 Racing, Denny Hamlin, and Tyler Reddick is not going anywhere. The questions surrounding their dominance will follow them into San Diego, into Sonoma, and through every remaining race of the regular season. With 10 races left, a 9-point gap at the top of the standings, and 2 former champions demanding answers, the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season just entered a completely different chapter.